point now, is Nvidia still the leader in your mind? I mean, what kind of target do you have here?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Nvidia is the leader in AI. I mean, from a China perspective, you certainly have Huawei, who is supplying to China. Our models, the shifts we made to start to account for some additional China revenue, it was only like a billion or so per quarter this year versus, again, in Q2, they were looking at doing $8 billion. So does Huawei have more share in China? I wouldn't be surprised, but from a worldwide perspective, Nvidia is still by far the dominant player.
Understood. I mean, you have a 210 price target at this point. How long does it take to get to a price target like that? And the catalyst, I mean, we do have the big unboxing, the unveiling of maybe a brain. What is that on August 25th? Are you anticipating something wonderful?
I don't know what we get on August 25th. I mean, what we do know is NVIDIA has its new Rubin products that ship next year. Just heard in the news last night that Jensen was talking about having 6 chips that have been fully taped out. There was some speculation that might be delayed. It doesn't sound like there's any delays there. It sounds like NVIDIA is on time, which, again, as long as they continue to execute, it makes it really, really hard for people to catch up to them. In terms of the stock gain to my price target, it's always hard to tell exactly how the stock will move, but I do think when we're looking at Q2 results, Q3 guidance, that all the feedback I received in Q2, whether it was from the NVIDIA supply chain, whether it was the numbers that we got from the cloud service providers in terms of their spend, it was pretty much ubiquitously positive. And it sounds like Blackwell Ultra, their next product, is not running into any of the challenges they encountered with the first generation of Blackwell, that is ramping well as well. So if anything, NVIDIA's tend to be conservative with their guide in the past, and with everything seemingly executing well, would still expect we get a beat and a better guide, given that's what we've seen historically when these guys execute.
Yeah, when they report next week. I mean, we do have Jensen Huang in Taiwan. He was telling reporters that the H20 chip is not a national concern, security concern. Also, that he's working with the Trump administration to try and push forward the Blackwell-based chip. We heard some of that. At the same time, Trump and his administration have alluded to the fact that these are the same chips. They're same, but they're not. They're less than or something. And I'm sure the Chinese are not buying that. They don't want a chip that's less than. And so that becomes an issue too. But the Blackwell chip going to China would be a big deal, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, it kind of been assumed that NVIDIA revenues would slow down over time, just because they have this static chip that they're shipping. Well, clearly technology continues to progress. It now sounds like that there's a next generation product that would hypothetically be a bit more advanced than what they're shipping now. That gives them a far longer revenue stream going forward. And I think the thing to remember with NVIDIA is that their CUDA software is what everyone's trained on. And so it gives them a huge advantage selling in any geographies. And I think that's in part why they've been able to get traction in China with the H20, even though it's not as powerful as the H100. And it should give them some room to get revenue in China with a B30 or a B40, even if they aren't as powerful as the B200 or B300 chips.
This week, at least 9 analysts raised their price targets for Nvidia. According to statistics, the average street price objective for Nvidia is currently $191, which is around 10% higher than the current share price. Big things from Nvidia's earnings report are what the street is hoping for. The most significant is the widespread belief that demand for AI is rising. Analysts even anticipate positive news for the stock regarding Nvidia's operations in China. During a trip abroad today, CEO Jensen Huang fueled that narrative by hinting that the business is in discussions with the U.S. government about sending a new, more sophisticated processor to China. However, Mark Lipacis, an analyst with Evercore ISI, raised one concern regarding Nvidia. Because there is no precedent, investors are worried that Nvidia, which currently holds an 8% weighting of the S&P 500, won't be able to achieve a larger percentage, Lippius said. But he was quick to push back. We demonstrate that the PC plus networking ecosystem of Intel plus Microsoft plus Dell plus Cisco captured 14% weighting at their peak, and we believe that this is the precedent to benchmark Nvidia against, Lippius stated. This is because Nvidia is providing a vertically integrated chip, plus software, plus hardware, plus networking ecosystem. Nvidia's value is another factor that might not be a concern. Nvidia is riding high as it prepares to release its earnings report on August 27, 2025. Due to strong AI demand and early GB300 shipments, Wall Street models predict approximately $45.9 billion in Q2 sales and $1 to $1.09 in EPS. Prior to the print, a number of prominent analysts set targets. Wedbush and KeyBank, for instance, raised their targets to $210 and $215 respectively, indicating analyst confidence and suggesting double-digit growth. Bull case: Nvidia may surpass high projections once more, enjoys robust hyperscaler spending, and continues to dominate AI data center GPUs. If the outlook is maintained or gets better, that combination might lead to an instant post-earnings rise. Risk case: supply and short-term forecasts could be disappointing. Valuation already prices a lot of optimism, and geopolitics, export regulations, and the company's discussions with U.S. officials about China-specific chips add uncertainty. The average brokerage recommendation for Nvidia is currently 1.8, which indicates a outperform rating based on the consensus. A score of 1 indicates a strong buy, and a score of 5 indicates a sell. 52 analysts provided one-year price goals for Nvidia, with an average of $195.98, a high estimate of $372.87, and a low estimate of $100. From the current price of $173.37, the average target suggests an upside of plus 13.05%. According to projections, Nvidia's GF value in a year is $290.99, indicating a plus 67.85% increase from the present price of $173.37. Early on Friday, Nvidia's stock was gaining along with the majority of the market. Investors may find comfort in the CEO's most recent optimistic assessment of Nvidia's upcoming chips, even though the chip manufacturer is encountering yet another barrier to resuming sales of its AI processors in China. Following a 0.2% increase on Thursday, the shares were up 1.3% at 197.26 in early trading. With a 1.2% loss last week and a 3.0% decline this week until Thursday's closing, Nvidia stock is headed for its first 2-week losing streak since April. Several reports claim that Nvidia has instructed component suppliers to halt work on its H20 chip. The H20 is an AI chip that complies with U.S. export regulations and was created especially for the Chinese market. Beijing authorities have dissuaded domestic enterprises from using the technology after Nvidia was recently asked to explain the backdoor security risks connected to its processors by a Chinese cybersecurity regulator. In a Friday Q&A, a session with reporters, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang addressed the matter. He was in Taiwan to see Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, a supplier of Nvidia. China recently raised certain concerns regarding security flaws in our semiconductors. H20 has no security backdoors, as we have made very clear and put to rest, he stated. We're hoping that our response to the Chinese government will be adequate. We're having conversations with them. I'm hoping this can be fixed. Huang added that there is a lot of demand for the H20 and that he was taken aback by the Chinese regulator's investigation because the government had requested that Nvidia obtain export licenses from the U.S. government. In an emailed reply, an Nvidia representative stated, "We continuously adjust our supply chain to meet market conditions. For us, cybersecurity is really crucial. There are no backdoors in Nvidia's chips that would allow someone to remotely access or manipulate them. The market can confidently use the H20. Huang was also questioned about a speedier processor that would replace the H20 in China. He stated that negotiations with the U.S. government are underway. We don't have the authority to decide that. He stated that although we are in communication with them, it is too soon to tell. Additionally, Huang stated that Nvidia had provided TSMC with the chip designs for 6 new chips, including a CPU, the next Rubin GPU, and several networking semiconductors. According to the executive, he was in Taiwan to express gratitude to TSMC for their work. When Nvidia releases its earnings on August 27th, some Wall Street analysts raised doubts about whether the firm's financial projections would account for sales in China, where licensing permissions are necessary for the sale of H20 chips and for the company to give the U.S. government 15% of its profits. While in Taiwan, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang informed reporters that the company is collaborating with the U.S. government to bring a successor to its H20 processor to China. Based on Nvidia's Blackwell architecture, the new chip would be less potent than the B200 AI processor that the company offers to businesses in the U.S. and overseas. Huang acknowledged that the Trump administration would need to accept the move, but he said, "I'm offering a new product to China for AI data centers, the follow-on to the H20. We don't make that choice. Naturally, that is the responsibility of the U.S. government. We're in contact with them, but it's too soon to tell." Following the news, Nvidia's stock fell flat. Over the past 12 months, the company's stock has increased 40.5% and 29.4% so far this year. The sale of Nvidia's H20, a chip the company created especially to comply with regulations imposed by the Biden administration, to China was first prohibited by the Trump administration in April. But after meeting with Huang, Trump had a change of heart, and the company said it would start shipping in July. Trump stated earlier this month that he would permit Nvidia and rival AMD to ship their AI chips, provided that they provide the U.S. government 15% of the chip's sales. Trump stated that he was considering permitting Nvidia to release a new chip based on Blackwell during a press conference confirming the 15% fee. However, Chinese authorities have also cautioned businesses against utilizing Nvidia's chips, claiming that they may have backdoor security flaws that make them susceptible to manipulation. Nvidia is collaborating with the Chinese government to resolve the issue and has refuted the accusation. Of Nvidia's $130.4 billion in revenue in its most recent fiscal year, $17.1 billion came from China, including Hong Kong. The United States is by far the company's largest market, with $61.2 billion in revenue. On Wednesday, Nvidia will make its Q3 financial numbers public after the bell. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input helps create a more knowledgeable community where we can all learn and grow together in the world of investing. Stay up to date with the latest market trends, insights, and key updates by subscribing to Investing Tutorial. We're here to help you make smarter investment decisions and stay ahead of the curve.
Rallies on the back of those Powell super excited about investors are now looking for the next big market catalyst. As the market rallies on the back of those Powell comments, investors are now looking for the next big market catalyst. Nvidia asked suppliers to halt production of its made-for-China chip. Reports saying that Nvidia asked suppliers to halt production of its made-for-China chip. Christina Partsinevelos has the latest in today's
China still factors in. I'll get to that percentage. You talked about the halting production. It's specifically the H20 chips. I'll get to that percentage. You talked about the Chinese regulation. It's specifically the H20 local firms designed for China. And this is after Chinese regulation. There was more from Reuters. Local firms from 700,000 chips are now supposedly sitting idle at packaging plants. And that comes just weeks after President Trump supposedly sitting idle at packaging plants. These exact same AI chips. Nvidia's China revenue, to your point, Sarah, has already fallen from 26% to Nvidia's China revenue, to your point, Sarah, has already fallen from 26% sees this as a China problem for Nvidia. In just 3 years. It's actually accelerating China's move away from Nvidia and all American suppliers. It's actually accelerating for example, now hold away from Nvidia and all American suppliers. Spots in Chinese companies, for example, now hold 60% of the top, according to artificial analysis. Open source the U.S. just has 3 in the open source models, and they're building these models to run on Chinese hardware. The U.S. just has 3 in the open source models, and they're building these models to run on Chinese Huawei chip issues as bullish for Nvidia because it couldn't work on Huawei. But sources tell me chip issues as bullish for Nvidia because it couldn't work on Huawei. But sources tell me because Huawei's software issues. DeepSeek, but they're still planning to run the finished model on Huawei chip issues. But they're still planning to run the finished model on Huawei chips. Happens millions of times. And if training happens periodically, Chinese AI models happens millions of times. Chinese developers build apps on these Chinese AI models. It's not just they'll be running on giant Baidu built its ERNIE model specifically for Huawei chips. Giant Baidu built its ERNIE model specifically for Huawei chips. Building out an AI ecosystem is doing the same. China Nvidia. So while Nvidia gets building out an AI restrictions and Beijing's security concerns, while Nvidia gets squeezed between Washington's restrictions and Beijing's Nvidia's earnings next week will show the near-term impact, but the real threat is China building Nvidia's earnings next week will show the near-term impact, but the real threat is China building an entire AI ecosystem.
So what a week for your beat on semis. The other thing we didn't get to, it kind of got lost today. And what a week for your beat on semis. The other thing we didn't get to, it kind of got lost today. Considering returning news some government subsidies if the government were to ask for, considering returning Intel some government subsidies if the government were to ask for, interesting wrinkle as we continue to watch Intel sort of that changing that stake. I thought that was an interesting wrinkle as we continue to watch.
Yeah, that's sort of that changing that TSMC is the largest contractor, chip contractor in the world. Do they really need a government handout? TSMC is the largest contractor, chip contractor in the world. Especially in Arizona, they did get a lot of funding, but of course, just a few weeks ago when all of this started, they did get a lot of funding. According to sources in the report, just a few weeks ago when all of this started, have conversations about giving it back. According to sources in the report, said just within the last 24 hours that he doesn't plan giving it back to take equity stakes in Micron and TSMC. And it kind of makes sense. Both of those companies are doing quite well and don't need as much help like Intel did. And it kind of makes sense. Both of those companies are doing quite well and don't need as much help like
Investors
Intel
are now
did.
looking for the next big market
not as reliant on the funding.
Nvidia results.
Christina, thanks so much, KP, watching Nvidia and Intel and TSM for us.